Not seeing any hands raised, we'll move quickly then to the general manager's report. Farhad?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, directors of the agency. I have 3 quick updates for you. Since start of operation, we now have carried 2,063,000 passengers and over 221,000 bicycles and over 7,900 folks utilizing wheelchair. My second item is our staff has been working with Larkspur Ferry, Golden Gate Bridge Ferry on how we can optimize and continue to do more coordination between the train and the Larkspur Ferry. And we both have been working very hard on making that a much more optimized connection. My colleague, General Manager at Golden Gate, has assigned a staff who, my colleague from Golden Gate, General Manager, will be discussing changes in the next few weeks. And then my final is because of the articles in the paper, I thought Director Collin also wanted me to give a high-level briefing for you. High-level briefing on the coal issue. So we've been coordinating with our chair, Mr. Rabbitt, Senator McGuire, and Congressman Hoffman. And basically what happened was during the Surface Transportation Board procedure, where they were discussing NCRA's rail banking, a brand new company that was just registered offered to spend over $1 billion and rehabilitating certain rail portions so they can then bring coal from 3 states like Montana and Utah, and then bring that through the line and take it to Humboldt port so it can be shipped overseas. That was the genesis of what presentation was made to Surface Transportation Board. And of course, very strong reaction from our elected officials as well as many of the residents. What I wanted to let your board know is that SMART has not received any such proposal. We have not received any such contacts. Nobody has been talking to us, and this process, if in fact there is such a thing, will need to come and go through our lines. What I can let your board know is the cost of rehabilitating the line that supposedly they're discussing will be in many, many, many billions of dollars. This area goes through an extremely sensitive environmental areas, which will have its tremendous challenges and ongoing mitigation costs, and that will add hundreds of millions of dollars to that, as well as the last time that took place, if you all remember, it took over a decade of litigation. So from our point of view, there is nothing in front of us. No contact has been made to us. If and when such a proposal actually does materialize, then I will make sure that your board knows immediately and we will proceed accordingly. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any question you might have.
I appreciate that very much. And I would just like to add to that, because I think I really do speak on behalf of everyone here on the coal issue. I think it's safe to say that we were all a bit taken back when the news of this potential thing broke. I can tell you, and again, I think this is true of all of you, I am personally adamantly opposed to this idea. I mean, not only there's so many different reasons, but the global environmental impact of shipping coal overseas to markets to supply a polluting fuel to factories and power plants is just so counter to what we're trying to do here in Sonoma and Marin counties, as well as the state of California. It seems like a massive step backwards in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which is we take very seriously and have been working very hard on and making huge investments. I think SMART is also about reducing greenhouse gas emissions by taking single occupant vehicles off the highway. So it's contrary to even the goals of this agency. And not only that, as the general manager said, rebuilding the rail line through the, really the pristine Eel River and the Russian River basins could have such detrimental effects to the sensitive ecosystems that we are in charge of. Not only that, it's cost prohibitive, and the impacts of accommodating freight would disturb, no doubt, a wide swath of pristine land, especially as they have to rebuild anything if they were to ever get that far. To me, the whole thing makes no sense, but apparently we need to take it seriously as big money is behind it, and no matter how crazy it sounds. And lastly, I think, what would be a massive problem if it weren't for those two first issues, one could only imagine what it would take to fill a ship up with enough coal to make this whole prospect work, and the size of those coal trains actually coming through our jurisdictions with at-grade crossings. Talk about a nightmare scenario. And I know that our own jurisdictions are taking lots of action, working behind the scenes, adopting resolutions, making sure that we're talking to our legislators, both, I know Congressman Huffman's obviously front and center. Congressman Thompson's right there with him, Senator McGuire, obviously, Senator Dodd, and everyone else. And I believe through the general manager that this board will take the appropriate actions at the appropriate time. We have a little bit of a sensitivity in terms of the freight piece and what we're required or not required to do through the federal government, but we'll work through that. And we'll make sure that, we make the right decisions at the right times going forward. And I know that there's lots of passion regarding this issue, and I'll turn it now and look to my colleagues. And I think Director Lucan had his hand up first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's very concerning, I think, for all of us. I don't know who said it, but I remember one of the articles, somebody tried to refer to these coal trains as clean coal trains, and I couldn't help but just be disgusted by the fact there is no such thing as clean coal. We all know that. They have no place traversing through Marin and Sonoma County. I can share with the rest of the board as chair for the Transportation Authority of Marin this year. I have raised this with our staff there and at our executive committee meeting on Monday to see what role Transportation Authority of Marin has as a planning agency with regards to the significant impacts, safety, environmental, traffic impacts for these large rail cars that hypothetically might come through our jurisdictions. So we're looking at it there. The one question I have for our general manager, first off, thank you for the briefing. With regards to just general compliance and things like positive train control, it's my understanding that the FRA is the one that would say any sort of freight going on our lines would need to have positive train control, but am I correct? Is SMART is the one that would ensure they're actually in compliance with that? And how exactly does that work?
Director Lucan, you are correct. So the movement of goods, as you know, is regulated by the federal government, Surface Transportation Board, and then Federal Railroad Administration. So, any movement of freight through our line, the operator needs to comply with the strictest federal standards. Our job will be to make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted, every regulation that the federal agencies require is fully to comply with, whether it's positive train control or the type of vehicle or the brake or many different type of regulations that they will have. Our staff will assure that those are fully complied with, if and when there is such a proposal.
Sounds good. I think that's an important point to say that here at SMART, we do have a role to play in this in determining whether or not these compliance measures are being met. And we'll do so to the strictest of our capacities if it ever gets to that point. But I'm curious to learn more about that and other areas where SMART has discretion, and we will use any and every tool we have in our tool chest to thwart this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just add before I call my next colleague, just to that point, in the first article that went out, I could tell you that I was not particularly personally happy with the way that that was reported, because obviously they were looking for the angle from the chair of SMART to talk about what SMART could and could not do. And actually, I made my issues known to the reporter and got this note back. There was a paragraph with a quote from you describing your opposition, but it got lost in editing. I think of the 30-minute conversation I had, 28 minutes was about what a crazy idea this was. And then the question regarding what SMART could and could not do legally. And as we all know, just with what that conversation was, it's has different parameters, but I just wanted to put that out there that sometimes you don't get to dictate what gets actually in the paper. At least they admitted that it was editing, apparently. I see Damon Connolly next. Damon?
Thank you, Chair. And just a couple quick thoughts. This very troubling news certainly has tempered some very good news coming out of Sacramento, and that is the recent passage of Senator McGuire's SB 69, which moves the vision of the Great Redwood Trail forward. That bill is now on the governor's desk, and our Board of Supervisors has written a letter to the governor in full support of that legislation. The bad news, of course, as again noted today, that it has come to our attention that a shady corporation, North Coast Rail Company LLC, has apparently filed to acquire and rehabilitate the dilapidated rail line for high volume shipments. Has been noted and very well by you, Chair, this proposal would directly subvert the goals of the Great Redwood Trail to preserve and protect our natural environment and repair damages caused by the defunct rail. And to make matters worse, from what we are hearing, this company, North Coast Railroad LLC, seeks to ship coal overseas. So I'll just note that our Board of Supervisors will be considering a resolution in opposition as well. And I know other bodies up and down the North Coast are doing that as well.
Yeah. Dan, I see your hand up, and I'll call it and make sure I get you in there. But next up is Director Gorin.
Thank you, Farhad and David, for the report on this. Yes, we share your horror at the prospect of enormous numbers of rail cars loaded with coal coming through Marin and Sonoma County, and the devastation for the potential for a bike path going along the rail lines there. So I guess I need to know, and I'm sure the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, as well as a number of cities, will make official resolutions in opposition to this. And I'm sure you're already connecting with our legislative lobbyists in Sacramento and Washington to oppose this and figure out the next steps. My question is, although General Manager Farhad Mansourian, you suggested that now may not be the right time for action. When would the right time for action be?
So, Director Gorin, as we speak today, there is nothing in front of SMART. We don't know of this company. They have not contacted us. Nobody has contacted us in this regard other than, of course, working with congressmen and senator staff and our chair. So if and when, my recommendation is if and when we get a proposal or we get an interest from a bona fide shipper that we know this thing is not just more than trying to derail Senate Bill 69 efforts, then immediately, and we will have very, very plenty of time, then I will immediately coordinate with your board on what options we have. And we will get a briefing from our legal counsel so your board knows what legal authorities you have and which parts you don't have, and we will walk you through the federal regulations. So any action you take at the earliest possible time is in compliance with all those regulations and authorities. So we've been monitoring this, and I will make sure that our next general manager knows the sensitivity of this, and our council is aware of it, and we've been in contact with everybody else. So we will keep you posted as soon as anything real takes place here.
Thank you. I worry that we would be taking action too late, but maybe that is a needless worry because there's a lot of conversation to happen between now and then. I come from a long line of family members engaged in and employed by the steel industry, and certainly working with coal. Joe's dad worked on coal gasification for his entire career, I think. Yes, we're not still fossil fuel families in my all electric home. No, not going there. But I also serve on the Energy, Environment, Land Use Committee and NACO, and the Middle Red States, Wyoming, Montana, really tried to force resolutions through that committee, forcing Washington State to build a deep water port for the export of coal, when we reminded them that counties don't take well to being forced by national mandates. They sort of backpedaled a little bit, but needless to say, that resolution did not go very far. And now they're trying other mechanisms. So they're serious. We need to take it seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Bagby.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mansourian, for your briefing. I think part of what we're looking for from you, and you answered the question, is exactly what level of outrage should we be expressing right now? And what is the appropriate channel? I think that the outrage is justified. This proposal, for those of us who have been around transportation even for a short time, we understand how completely absurd, how in dollar signs the continuation of any kind of line past Cloverdale looks like, for environmental reasons, just because the line has been derelict for so long. I mean, there's so much remediation that needs to be done just to bring it up to a trail standard. It's just absurd. And of course, for all of the people who worked so hard to envision SB 69 and get it passed and hopefully get it signed very, very soon, it's just so demoralizing because it can delay and it can disrupt what looks to be a huge economic boon, especially, for my area of northern Sonoma County. We are already, in the process of making plans to integrate the Great Redwood Trail into our economic development, into our land use planning. It's where we want to go. And, for those of us, not to be too alarmist, but for those of us who have driven the interstate and have driven through Gillette, Wyoming, and seen the coal trains that are literally as far as the eye can see, that's what is being proposed here. And so I kind of, I'm horrified at that possibility. And at the same time, I know that there's a huge problem with getting that rail line there. I mean, that's an understatement in itself. There's really an impossibility of getting that train line completed, but it can threaten, the Great Redwood Trail. And, for all of our planning purposes and our goals for our community, even if it delays it and disrupts it, it's an offense. And so I look forward to, leadership and that of the new general manager to guide SMART and what our obligations will be going forward. But I also know that this is a great opportunity for this board to show solidarity with Marin Transit, with SETA. We all have board members who serve on multiple boards on NCRA as well. So I think that we are pretty united in being pretty disgusted with this, whether it's it disrupts our progress, or if it does pose a real existential threat. So I stand with my fellow board members in standing against this and just saying, I am ready to do what needs to be done, and, look forward to your advice on how we can best act moving forward.
Thank you. Director Fudge.
Yes, in terms of, we're speaking here as a smart board, and we're speaking about what, in terms of what you said, Chair Rabbit, what smart can and cannot do. But 10 of us represent cities and counties, and we're not bound by what smart can or cannot say or do in terms of freight transportation as in our roles as local electeds. And I've been advised that legally we're not bound at all, and we can go out as individually electeds and oppose this vehemently, which is what I plan to do. So, and that makes our voices even doubly strong because we have two hats, and we can use our local elected hats to do that. So my question to Damon is, excuse me, Crumb always knows when I'm talking. My question to Damon is, when is the Marin Board of Supervisors, when are you doing your resolution? Is it soon?
So I'm kind of taking the lead on that. I would say certainly within the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, here we're speaking as a smart board, but I wanted to bring up individually, there's 10 jurisdictions here that can move forward and follow Marin's example, and maybe we can get a copy of your resolution and state our opposition up front. As Supervisor Gorin says, we don't want to do anything too late. It's better to speak up right away than to wait. And I know the townspeople of Windsor are looking for opposition to this and looking for us to speak up right away.
Thank you. Director Hilmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for all the comments from the other directors. My next step is to go back to the organization that I represent on this board, the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members, and ask for a resolution from them in principle, and maybe later in practice when something does appear before this board, to ensure that this risky scheme is dead on arrival. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was just, and we all do represent jurisdictions that certainly can make our thoughts known. And we're on regional bodies as well. I'm sure that SETA, I know, is bringing this forward. I'm sure TAM will. Undoubtedly, there will be many others. So I think that getting everyone in alignment is important. Putting those resolutions out, it is important. At the same time, we're all talking to the choir, and we need to make sure that we understand what it is that we can do to really, change things. I believe that there must be a land use decision that needs to be made in Humboldt County to have a landing spot or for this facility. It seems like there's a vulnerability there. And I know, again, through the general manager talking to Congressman Huffman, Senator McGuire, that there's lots of work on that front. I can tell you personally, I know of a supervisor from the home county where the shipments would originate or could originate, and and he's a member of the Crow Nation. There's that issue as well, and it's very interesting. The dynamics of representing a people in a county. It gets complicated quickly. So I'm glad that we had this opportunity to broach the subject today, because I think obviously in the news, and we need to make sure that we stay on top of it. You're right, time is of the essence as well, but our jurisdiction can certainly take action as soon as we can. With that, I'll look to the public for our attendees today and see if there are those who are wishing to speak to this body.